So, and just to give you an example, if we were to slide master close out of it, so as you see here, since this is an actual quiz page, you won't see it, but for all the other ones now, you're always going to see that question number. And since we set the initial value at 1, once we see this preview, so for all of them, it's all going to be 1 right here. Okay? And then 2, so then going back to the slide master and going back to these, so then second thing we should do, or you should do, is just create an actual previous button and an actual next button. And again, that's just real simple, going to the control panels, controls, buttons. I'm going to just copy paste. Prev. And so then I guess this is basically where the triggers come in. So, well, and before I do that, and again, I personally always label everything just to make it easier, but either way, next and previous. So then when it comes to this next button, basically we're going to adjust the variable. The variable is the question number, which is this one. We're going to add the value of 1 whenever the user clicks next. Same thing with previous. Over the previous button, we're going to adjust the variable of the question number. We're going to subtract the value of 1 whenever the user clicks previous, but we're going to add just one condition on it. Basically, we're only going to do it if the question number variable is greater than the value 1. And what that means is that if it's already on number 1, then we don't want it to go to 0, then -1, then -2, or -3. So basically, if it's at 1 already, then clicking previous isn't going to change the actual variable number. So, and just to make sure that it's also on the second page as well too, or on the quiz page that has pictures on it. So same concept there. And so what this creates, let me just make sure that I've done everything. Oh, and then also, I'm sorry, one more thing we have to do too. Since I created this previous and next button, you also have to create the standard command of having it go to the next page once you click next, and having it go to the previous page once you click previous. So same concept. Where am I? Jump to slide, next slide when user clicks next, and jump to slide, previous slide when user clicks previous. And one thing, just one thing, FYI, is that always make sure that this add 1 and this subtract 1 comes up, before the jump into the next slide, because they always do these interactions by order. So if it was the other way around, then it would just jump to the next slide without recording the actual add number. So just always important, yeah. Yeah, definitely, because I used to come across that problem as well, where I was wondering why it wasn't working, but it was simply because the order of operations was off. So, but then once you do all that, oh, and I'm sorry, one more thing too. On this last slide, on this results slide, where it says previous, jump to previous slide, we also want it to be like when it jumps to the previous slide, we also want it to subtract 1 as well too. But I'll show you why after we preview the whole thing. So here's our quiz. So 24 hours in a day, next, and so now you're seeing how now everything. So now once you reach the very end though, if we were to go back to a previous, you'll notice how this is at 6, previous 7, and that's because as we're going back to previous, it's not subtracting a number from this, and so that's why this number keeps on increasing whenever we go back. And so that's why where the very last time we would do this would be just with this previous button, we would just add one more trigger, just saying adjust variable of question number, subtract value of 1 when the user clicks the previous button here. Does that make sense? Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, like what I actually did in the what I actually did in my in what I sent to Einar, I actually just created a I actually just I removed all previous and next buttons, and I just created my own manual ones here. You know, and I did that just for consistency, just so that they all looked the exact same. So like in theory, yeah, I would just create my own previous and next buttons. I would just label them. Yeah, the same everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, well, yeah, yeah. That was an example, but honestly, you're right. Just for consistency sake. I'm sorry, I can't talk. Let me just remove those default buttons. And if you knew, you could always add or remove any of these buttons here if you didn't know in this lower right hand settings trigger. So once I actually remove those, again, just labeling that just for my own. So yeah, it'd be same concept. Just variable, question number, subtract value 1 when user clicks previous. And since this is the result slide, well, I guess it won't matter. We don't have a slide following, but. And then of course too, whenever you create a previous or next button, just you always have to add that the actual command of jumping to the previous slide or to the next slide. That's just something where it's always a good habit. Jump to the next slide. Okay. So then total. So if we just preview everything one more time, boom, boom, boom. And then when you go back, it's still, so since there's 5 questions, yeah, it'll still go back. So now the one last thing you would do is just you would basically go back to each one of these, and you would actually remove the actual submit button. So now the actual issue, so now like two things. When it's question banks, you basically have to do each one manually, which can be pretty tedious. So that's why I wanted to get Einar's sign off on it before we went this route. If it wasn't question banks, then you would be able to just select everything on the story view page, and you would just be able to just do it this way, just by having everything selected all, then just going to the right hand panel, and then just undoing submit. But for question banks, it doesn't let you do that. You can only do it on this page, so you would have to kind of do it manually in a sense. So it's not bad, but when you have like 50, 60, 70, 80 questions, that's just a nice little 15-20 minutes of random clicking.